The next section, I'm actually going B, A, and then I'll go on to C and D, is the physical resources. So this is your facility, all of the equipment that you have. There's a lot of requirements in there around, meeting local legislation. GWO is a global standard, but it defers to local standards. And so, things like ANSI, OSHA, building, codes and stuff like that. Even around like, was your working at height structured, signed off by a professional engineer, and do you have proof of that? What are the maintenance intervals on your equipment, including your physical structures, your, working at heights equipment, PPE, etc. And are you incorporating some element of realism in your training environment so that the technician gets kind of a functional feel of working in a wind turbine? Not everybody has to have a nacelle for their training, but you can get creative with the way that you design your equipment and structures. And then, as I mentioned before, is the documentation of risk assessments for every piece of equipment that you have in your facility. There's 4 different types of facilities that are called out in the GWO training standards. Kind of the most obvious one is a fixed training facility, but it also allows a mobile training facility. That might be something, a truck-based, a container-based, maybe a cool, structure that lifts up from the back of a truck when you arrive at a location. That's going to have its own certification because it's essentially a new training environment. The other option is to have an on-site training. And so think of this as being like training inside of a turbine, or sending a instructor to a location that's maybe not a certified facility, but the instructor can do an assessment, risk assessment, and figure out all the control measures to use that location. And there's a process that has to be set up to do that. And as you see there, it says it must already operate a fixed or mobile training facility before you can step into the on-site training. And then the last one, it's not really, necessarily a site, but, digital learning actually is considered its own kind of training location. And so there's a specific certification that goes along with that, whether that's you're using online lessons, webinars, virtual classrooms, augmented reality, or some form of blending that with classroom training. There's some really cool solutions out there that companies have employed with using things like e-learning, for the technician to do, within the number of days before they come to the physical training center to do their practicals. And so, why not, exploit those kinds of opportunities, but it has to be part of your certification. And as I say there on the bottom, each site must have its individual certification, but it can be bundled into a multi-site audit. That's something that we're working on improving in the standards, is to make sure that, we recognize that companies that have multiple training locations, but under the same management systems, under the same instructor development, same curriculum, that we can kind of exploit some of those things and bundle them during an audit. The next area is instructor qualification.